Hello and welcome back, GeoGeeks. This is video number 2 in our Cygwin tutorial series, where we're teaching you how to set up a Linux-like environment on your Windows system. So if you recall, think back way back to one video ago, where we ended was by installing Cygwin, and we were left with this terminal window that was looked like this, and it was pretty poorly configured, you know? So what we're going to cover in this video is how to make your terminal window more usable. Now again, please recognize that I'm using 200% font scaling just so stuff looks big for you in the video. Your icons would not cover this much of your screen. Okay, so the first thing to do is note that this terminal program is called MinTTY, M-I-N-T-T-Y. That's sort of the terminal emulation program that Cygwin provides. It's pretty nice. And right up here, if you click, you will see that there is a menu with options. And I don't know about you, but as a geek, I like options. So what options should we consider changing? And again, these are just going to be my recommendations. You should fiddle around with it and pick out whatever options work for you. But first of all, you can change the foreground and the background color. The foreground is basically the text color, which looks to be sort of a gray color, and the background is the background of the window. This is always one of my big annoyances when I used to have to use a Mac computer, that their terminals came with a white background and it would like scorch your eyes. So black backgrounds I think are actually pretty nice, so we should definitely use them. Let's try changing the foreground to something else. I have often used 200, 0, which is sort of like this golden brown mustard color, which looks terrible here, but in a terminal window, it actually looks pretty good. It gives it kind of like a yellowish color, which I think is a little bit better than gray, but you know, you might not like that, that's fine. What I do is I put the transparency on high, but then I also say opaque when focused. So what does that do? What that does is you can see now that you can see behind things. Oh, I have to hit apply first. There we go. But when you click on it as the active window, it's not transparent at all. And I like this because that way if there are icons floating around behind your terminal window, you can see them. So that's what I would recommend. Next, let's go to the text menu. And this is the big one. It gives you this Lucida console 9-point font. Now you want to leave the font alone because we want to make sure it's monospaced. And monospaced means that every character takes up the same width. It's a very common thing that you want for programming. You probably wouldn't want to write literature in monospaced font because it looks kind of ugly. But for programming, we want stuff to line up. So let's not mess with that. I usually use 12-point font, but it depends on the size of your screen and how good your eyes are, what you will want to use. So fiddle around with it and use whatever you think works best for you. But you can see just by changing the font, my terminal window is now much bigger. Because the size of your terminal window is defined based on how many characters it is wide and how many lines it is tall. So if you change the font, it updates that stuff. I leave the font smoothing as default, which is fine with me. You can turn the smoothing on if you want. Honestly, I can't really tell a big difference. The next thing we want to look at are keys. Now, read these options. They're pretty cool because copy and paste is there. But what I find more interesting than using these Control Shift and Insert thing is kind of weird. You can't use Control C and Control V in terminal windows to copy and paste because Control C is how in Linux you kill a program, or at least the easy way. So Control plus Shift plus letter is really cool because what this means is you can do Control Shift C, which will copy, and Control Shift V, which will paste. Of course, in a terminal window, you can just simply highlight something and it automatically copies it. But this is handy if you're sort of used to the regular Windows and Mac world to have these turned on. So I would go ahead and turn those on. Let's see, in the mouse menu, there's, I don't think there's anything else. No, that's all good. In the mouse menu, there's, this is useful. Clicks places the command line cursor. Normally you have to scroll through with your arrow buttons, so you might want to experiment with that. I don't personally like it that much, but I think it's a cool idea for some people. Under selection, I think there's some other options that are neat, but I think I don't care to change any of them. But under Windows, one of the cool things you can do is you can change how many scroll back lines, basically how long your history is in your terminal window. I'm just gonna go ahead and set mine to 20,000. Why? I don't know, that just seems like a better number than 10,000. And you can do terminal bell here. See how it says default beep? But you can also do different sounds, which is pretty cool. But I think I'm gonna leave that alone for now. And you can also have it flash and highlight in the taskbar, which I think is pretty cool. So I like having the sound and the highlight in the taskbar whenever you get a terminal sort of notification, if you will. And I think that's all we're gonna need to save. So now these are saved as my default options as my user, whatever my user is, in this case, GeoGeek. The next time you open up a terminal window, it's the same font size and all those things work. But isn't it kind of annoying that it sort of puts the window wherever on your screen? It's like every time it sort of cascades them, but then when you run out of space, it'll go up again. Wouldn't it be nice if you could automatically set it up so it automatically put it in like the bottom right corner or the top left corner or something like that? Well, the cool thing is you can do that. So let me show you how to do that because it's pretty cool. And by doing this, we can also learn some of the command line options for MinTTY. So if you set the start menu icons, which we did in the last video, you can go ahead and go there, and you'll see there is a Cygwin 64 terminal in your start menu, which is pretty useful. However, what we're gonna do is we're gonna go to this folder. I right-clicked on that file, and I selected More, and Open File Location. And what you will see here is that automatically every program in the start menu is actually like a shortcut or a file put somewhere. And so what I'm going to do is right click on this and hit Properties. And this will allow us to see what that shortcut is actually doing. And what it's actually doing is it's typing the location of the Cygwin MinTTY command with a whole bunch of options, which is pretty cool. So what I'm going to do is copy and paste in what the options are that I use, and we can talk about it, because right now all it has is bottom right, screen 1, shell, display, bash, all that stuff. So let's go ahead and kill all of this. I have these saved off screen if you're wondering, what is he doing? What was that pause for? It's me copying and pasting it over. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is we're going to say position is P, and there are shortcuts. Normally you would define the position by pixels on your screen, but there's a shortcut or like a keyword bottom, top, right, and left. I'm not sure if there's a middle, but this basically can be used to position your terminal. And there's also this @ symbol, which is really cool, and that tells it which screen to put it on. And you might be surprised. You might think your left screen is always your screen number 1 and your right screen is always your screen number 2, or maybe you think the opposite, I don't know. But just remember, it depends on how you have your displays configured in Windows, which screen is screen 1 and which screen is screen 2. So if it pops up on the wrong screen, you can always go back and change this to a 2. Let's scooch forward a little bit. -S is the size of your terminal window. Now, your mileage may vary here, but what I like to use is 100 by 35. So that means it's, 100 characters wide in the horizontal by 35 lines in the vertical. But again, what's good for you will depend on the size and shape of your screen. So if you don't have any opinions, maybe just try the 135. The -I option tells it what icon to put in the top right-hand corner of your window when you have the actual terminal window open. So we're just going to use the Cygwin terminal icon, which is actually in your default Cygwin directory. If you go to your local disk and Cygwin 64, there's your Cygwin terminal icon right there. So there's the icon it's using. Pretty cool. Then T is, oops, I went over too far. The T is the title that's going to be written in text. Like, see how this window has an icon and then it has a title? So we're just gonna call this MinTTY terminal, bash shell, whatever. You can change it if you want. You can call it like GeoGeek terminal, or you can call it corn dogs, whatever you want, it doesn't matter to me. Then the other thing that we have to do that I'm not going to cover totally why we need this in this video, but maybe in a later video, this /bin/env display equals 127.0.0.1:0.0. That's a mouthful. That basically sets up an environment variable called display and sets it equal to that IP address, and then gives it a display number, which is 0.0 in this case. Now, most of you probably won't need that, but if you ever connect to remote machines using SSH and want to open up graphical programs remotely, you're going to need to have that display parameter set. So the easiest way to do that, I found, I mean, you can also do it in your setup files, like your .bash art profile file and all that stuff. But the easiest way to do it is within your Cygwin shortcut right here. That way it'll automatically give each display variable correctly. The other thing you have to tell MinTTY is what kind of shell are you going to be running? And a shell is, for lack of a better description, it's basically what programming language is your terminal window going to be expecting you to use. And the standard in most Linuxes is bash. I think some people have moved over to ZSH, and some old school people might use CSH, but I'm still used to bash, so that's what I'm going to do. And then -l makes it a login shell. And if you're interested in that, you can Google difference in login shell and regular shell into bash. But for our purposes, I'm just going to use L because that's what I like and what I'm used to. So if I hit OK, let's just hit apply. You have to be an administrator. That's fine. And now if I open up the terminal window, it should hopefully pop up on the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. And if it doesn't, we'll fix it. It did. You'll notice there's a little gap down here in the bottom right of our screen. That's because Windows 10 has these invisible window borders that go around every window that are a few pixels wide. So you can't make it actually go exactly to the edge like that. It's always going to have that little buffer on there. And so this is really cool. We've got it. So now every time we launch Cygwin terminal from this shortcut, it will automatically pop up in the bottom left-hand corner. What if we want it in the top left? You can just change the command to top left. Hit apply. Yeah, I know, I'm an administrator. And now it's in the top left. So why this is really cool is in your journey into becoming a really true GeoGeek, you might find that you commonly will want multiple terminal windows open. And it's kind of annoying every time to have to like pull them around your screen and get them to line up. Because part of being a geek is being really particular about how you like things. That's what I'm telling myself. So having things automatically pop up where you want is cool. So let's make this one bottom right. That's where I typically put my main terminal window. And what we can do is we can actually even set this with a shortcut key. And I'm kind of uncreative. So what I like to do is Control-Shift-1, which will open up my first terminal window. Now, Windows 10 doesn't do a great job of these Control-Shift shortcuts. Okay, it opened up pretty fast that time. Sometimes it hangs for a while. I think that's mainly because my machine thinks it's on a domain and it hangs. But if your machine doesn't, that's great. Now no matter what, where I am or what I'm doing, I can hit Control-Shift-1 and it'll open my terminal window in the bottom right-hand corner. Well, what if I want one in the top left-hand corner? What you can do is you can copy this. I hit Control-C and Control-V to paste it. I'm going to call this one Cygwin Terminal 2. And in there, I can leave, it has the exact same command I had before because I copied and pasted it, right? But I can make this one go in the top left. So one of the cool things that you can do with this is, now that we have our terminal window popping up in the bottom right and the top left, is we can set keyboard shortcuts to them. And the trick here is picking out keyboard shortcuts that aren't already used by something else and that don't do general system tasks. So I've had pretty good luck with using, like if I want terminal number 1, my number 1 terminal, maybe Control-Alt-1 would work. And then for the second one, I could say, okay, you will pop up when I type Control-Alt-2. So check it out. I'll hit Control-Alt-1 now. There's my normal window in the bottom right, and Control-Alt-2. I hit it now, and it gives me my one in my top left. Now, on my normal system, what I have set up is I have set up a series of 2 on my primary screen and then 4 sort of like tiled in quadrants on my secondary screen. That way, if I'm running like a bunch of computational models, I can put them on terminal windows by themselves so I can still monitor them. I know there are tools to have it spit the stuff it spits out to the screen to a file, but sometimes it's nice just to be able to see stuff. So that's what I do. So I hope you've enjoyed this terminal. I hope you've enjoyed this video. You can tell what I've been focused on, right? Terminals. I hope you've enjoyed this video on setting up your Cygwin terminal. Stay tuned for more videos where we discuss how you can control your Cygwin environment and maybe even change the looks of things. So thanks again, GeoGeeks. If you're interested, subscribe for more videos on tutorials and geogeekery. I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.